Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiance. He looked out at space through the big window and felt his stomach drop. 300 alien ships had just appeared out of nowhere. Each ship was huge, like a small city, floating in space. Their dark metal hulls had weapons all over them. These weapons could destroy entire planets. Jake had been a space captain for 15 years. He had fought pirates and rebels. He had seen asteroid crashes and solar storms. But he had never seen anything like this. The alien fleet was so big it blocked out the stars. "Captain," said Commander Lisa Rodriguez. She walked up to him with a tablet in her hands. Her face looked worried. "We're getting a message from them. They're sending it on all radio channels." Jake nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The big screen in front of them lit up. A tall alien appeared on it. The creature had 4 arms and big bug-like eyes. Its skin was dark green and shiny. When it spoke, its voice was cold and had no feelings. "I am Supreme Overlord Zix-9, the alien said. "I speak for the hegemony. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. You humans are young and weak. You have only been in space for 200 years. Jake felt his crew getting nervous behind him. 23 brave men and women had come with him on this mission. They all knew they might die today. The alien continued talking. "You humans have spread to 12 star systems. You have built colonies on planets that do not belong to you. We told you to stop. You did not listen. Now we give you one last chance." The alien's big eyes seemed to look right through Jake. "Go back to your home planet Earth. Stay in your solar system. Never leave it again. If you do this, we will let you live. If you do not, we will destroy every human in the galaxy." The message ended. The bridge became very quiet. Jake could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines. He could hear people breathing. Everyone was waiting for him to say something. Lieutenant Ben Parker, who handled the ship's communications, cleared his throat. "Captain, we're getting calls from our other ships. Admiral Kate Sullivan is calling from the Titan sector. Commander Ryan Clark is calling from the Centauri Defense Force. Captain Amy Watson is calling from the Outer Rim." Jake looked at the tactical display. It showed where all the human ships were. 47 ships total. Some were big warships. Others were small, fast ships. They were spread across 12 star systems, protecting human colonies. The aliens had 300 ships. The humans had 47. The aliens had been building spaceships for 10,000 years. Humans had been doing it for 200 years. It was not a fair fight. "Open a channel to all our ships," Jake said. "Let's talk to the other captains." The screen split into 4 parts. Admiral Sullivan appeared first. She was an older woman with gray hair and hard eyes. She had been fighting in space for 30 years, Jake, she said. "I've seen a lot of crazy things in my time. Pirates, rebels, broken computers trying to kill everyone. But I've never seen anything that made me want to run home crying. What does Earth Command want us to do?" Commander Clark appeared next. He was younger, maybe 35 years old. His jaw was set tight with anger. "The colonies are talking to us. New Boston, Haven Prime, Liberty Station. They all say the same thing. They won't leave. The people there say they would rather die fighting than live like slaves." Captain Watson's face showed up last. She was on the Outer Rim, the farthest human settlements from Earth. "My engineers have been looking at the alien ships," she said. "They're big and scary, that's true. But they're also old, really old. We might know some tricks they don't." Jake felt something stirring in his chest. It was the same feeling he got when someone told him something was impossible. Humans had always been good at doing impossible things. They had climbed the highest mountains. They had gone to the moon. They had built cities under the ocean. "Listen," Jake said to his fellow captains. "These aliens think they know everything about us. They think we're just another young species that will give up when things get tough. They're about to learn something about humans that 10,000 years of ruling the galaxy hasn't taught them." He looked out at the alien fleet again. The ships were arranged in perfect rows, like they were on parade. Everything about them was organized and neat. It was like they had never faced a real fight before. "Send a message back to Supreme Overlord." "Zix-9," Jake said. "Tell him that humanity's official answer to his demand is this: hold my beer." The bridge crew looked at each other. Some of them started to smile, even though they were scared. It was a very human thing to do. When faced with certain death, humans made jokes. When told they couldn't do something, they got stubborn. Lieutenant Parker typed the message into his computer. "Message sent, Captain." Jake turned to his crew. "I know this looks bad," he said. "We're outnumbered. We're outgunned. Logic says we should surrender and go home. But logic never built a human colony on an alien world. Logic never made a human climb a mountain just because it was there." He walked to the center of the bridge. "We're not just fighting for our colonies. We're fighting for the right to be human. The right to be messy and unpredictable and stubborn. The right to look at impossible odds and say, 'Watch this.'" Commander Rodriguez stepped forward. "What are your orders, Captain?" Jake looked at his crew. They were young and old, men and women, from different countries on Earth, but they all had the same look in their eyes. It was the look humans got when someone told them they couldn't do something. "We're going to do what humans do best," Jake said. "We're going to improvise. We're going to adapt. We're going to be so unpredictable that these aliens won't know." "What hit them?" He turned to the communications officer. "Parker, start broadcasting music on all frequencies. I want every human ship in the fleet to pick their favorite songs and play them as loud as they can." "Sir?" Parker looked confused. "You heard me. Classical, rock, country, jazz. Let's give these aliens a taste of human culture." "What about military formations?" asked Rodriguez. Jake grinned. "Throw the book out the window. No standard formations. No predictable movements. Every ship does whatever feels right. If you want to do barrel rolls, do barrel rolls. If you want to fly in circles, fly in circles. The only rule is that there are no rules." Within an hour, the human fleet had transformed. Ships that had been flying in neat military formations were now scattered across space like leaves in the wind. Music was playing on every radio frequency. Some ships were doing loops. Others were flying in zigzag patterns. The alien fleet stayed perfectly still, watching them. "Captain," said Lieutenant Parker, "we're getting a message from the alien commander. He wants to know what our tactical plan is." Jake laughed. "Tell him this is our tactical plan." The bridge crew was quiet for a moment. Then they started to laugh too. They were about to fight the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and their plan was to confuse them with rock music and crazy flying dot. It was the most human plan ever made. Colonel Sam Hayes sat deep underground in a military bunker. The bunker was 3 miles below New Geneva, which was Earth's capital city. He was looking at computer screens that showed what was happening in space. The alien fleet had moved closer to the human colonies, but they had not started shooting yet. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. "Sir," called Sergeant Tony Martinez from his desk, "our deep space stations are sending us reports. The aliens aren't just getting ready to fight. They're scanning our technology. They're studying." U.S. Director Helen Davis walked over to Sam. She worked for Earth Intelligence, which meant she was a spy. She had a tablet in her hand with information about the aliens. "We've been listening to their radio messages," Helen said. "They're not just here to destroy us. They're trying to figure us out Our response has confused them." Sam looked at the big screen. It showed Captain Miller's ships near a star system called Kepler 442. The human ships looked like toys next to the huge alien ships, but the humans were keeping their formation and not backing down. "How is Jake doing out there?" Sam asked. "The Defiance and the other ships are staying in position," Helen said. "They're sending normal military messages to each other, but they're also sending something else. Music. Music? Rock and roll. Country music, jazz. They're playing Earth music on all the radio channels. Our alien experts say the hegemony has never heard anything like it. Their whole society is about being efficient and organized. The idea of making sounds just because they're pretty is totally new to them." Sam rubbed his forehead. "Only humans would confuse a space empire with a playlist." "What about our real weapons?" Major Rick Torres, who planned military tactics, walked up to the screen. "That's the interesting part, sir. Our ship captains are doing something they call protocol crazy even. Instead of flying in normal patterns, they're moving in completely random ways." The screen showed human ships doing things that would make any military teacher angry. They were flying in spirals and figure eights. They were changing direction for no reason. It didn't make any military sense at all. But the alien ships were staying far away, like they were afraid to get too close. "Are they scared of us?" Sam asked. He couldn't believe it. Helen showed him another screen with alien messages that had been translated. "Listen to this conversation between two alien commanders. The human ships are using unknown war strategies. They are either very smart or completely crazy. We should stay away until we understand what they're doing." Sam stared at the translation. "They think we're either military geniuses or totally insane. Both ideas scare them," Helen said. "According to our alien experts, the hegemony has conquered hundreds of different species over thousands of years. They've seen every type of military response: surrender, desperate fighting, new technology. But they've never seen anyone respond to a threat with rock music and random flying." The communication board lit up with a call from the outer colonies. Captain Watson's voice came through the speakers. "Earth Command, this is Outer Rim Patrol. The alien ships are staying in position, but they're not attacking. They keep sending out scanning signals, trying to figure out what we're doing. I think they're waiting for us to make sense." Major Torres smiled. "What should we tell them?" Sam looked around the bunker at his people. They were all professional, soldiers who had trained for normal wars. But if there was one thing humans were good at, it was adapting to weird situations. "Tell all the ship captains to keep doing what they're doing," Sam said. "If the aliens want to waste time trying to understand human logic, let them. Every hour they spend thinking about our tactics is another hour for us to get ready." Helen looked curious. "Get ready for what?" "The aliens expect us to fight like every other species they've conquered. They're ready for normal warfare, desperate last stands, or immediate surrender. They're not ready for humans being ... well, human." The main screen showed the standoff continuing in 12 different star systems. Massive alien war machines were staying perfectly still while human ships played music and flew in crazy patterns. It was ridiculous and made no sense, but it was working. "Sir," Sergeant Martinez called out, "we're getting a priority message from Captain Miller." Jake's face appeared on the screen. He looked serious, but also a little amused. "Earth Command, the aliens just sent us another demand. They want to know what our real military plan is. They think the music and random flying is hiding our actual strategy." Sam leaned forward. "What did you tell them?" "I told them this is our real strategy." You should have seen the look on their translator's face. "I don't think their species has a word for making it up as you go along." The bunker got quiet as everyone understood what this meant. Humanity was in a standoff with the Galactic Empire, and their main weapon was being too confusing to understand. "Keep it up, Captain," Sam said. "If confusion is our best weapon, then let's keep them confused." After the call ended, Sam walked to the main tactical display. It showed the positions of all human and alien ships. The aliens were in perfect geometric formations, like they were following a math textbook. The humans were scattered everywhere, like someone had thrown marbles across the floor. "Director Davis," Sam said, "how long do you think we can keep this up?" Helen consulted her tablet. "Our psychologists think the aliens are getting more frustrated every day. They're used to quick, decisive victories. This kind of prolonged confusion is outside their experience. And our people? Morale is actually pretty good. The ship crews think it's funny that we're winning a war by being weird. It's the kind of challenge humans enjoy." Major Torres pointed to the display. "Sir, we're getting reports from all sectors. The aliens are starting to make mistakes. They're breaking formation to get better scanning angles. They're sending duplicate messages. They're showing signs of what we would call stress." Sam felt a spark of hope. They're not used to not knowing what to do. Exactly. Their whole civilization is built on having the right answer for every situation. We're the first situation they can't solve. The communication board lit up again. This time it was Admiral Sullivan calling from the Titan sector. "Sam, you need to hear this," she said. "The aliens just asked us to please stop playing music during military communications. They say it's interfering with their analysis protocols." Sam looked at his staff. They were all trying not to laugh. "What did you tell them, Admiral?" "I told them that music is an essential part of human military operations. Then I cranked up the volume and played the entire Star-Spangled Banner. This time, everyone in the bunker did laugh. They were fighting for the survival of their species. And they were doing it with the national anthem and confused aliens." "Sir," Sergeant Martinez said, "we're getting similar reports from all sectors. The aliens are making more and more requests for clarification. They want to know why we fly in circles. They want to know what tactical advantage music provides. They want to know if our random movements are based on advanced mathematics. And our responses?" Captain Clark told them that flying in circles helps with crew morale. Captain Watson said that music improves reaction time. Captain Miller said that our movement patterns are based on intuitive tactical dynamics, whatever that means. Sam shook his head. "We're not just confusing them. We're making them think we're smarter than we are." Helen pulled up another screen. "It gets better. We're intercepting communications between alien commanders. They're starting to argue with each other about the best way to analyze our behavior. Some think we're using advanced psychology. Others think we're using new technology they don't understand. What do they all agree on? That we're dangerous in a way they can't predict or prepare for." The tactical display updated with new information. The alien fleet was showing signs of internal disagreement. Some ships were moving closer to get better scans. Others were moving further away for safety. Their perfect formations were starting to break up. "They're second-guessing themselves," Major Torres observed. "For the first time in their existence, they're not sure what to do." Sam felt a grin spreading across his face. "Gentlemen, ladies, I think we might actually pull this off. We're not going to beat them with superior technology or better tactics. We're going to beat them by being so confusing that they defeat themselves." "Sir," Martinez called out. "Priority message from the fleet. All captains are reporting the same thing. The aliens are requesting another ceasefire. They want more time to properly analyze human tactical doctrine." "How long?" "They're asking for 2 weeks." Sam looked around the bunker at his staff. 2 weeks was a long time in a military crisis. But it was also 2 weeks that they weren't being destroyed by an alien empire. "Tell them we'll consider it," Sam said. But first, we need to finish playing our current song. The alien empire that had conquered the galaxy was asking for a timeout, so they could figure out how to fight humans. It was the most human victory in the history of warfare. Dr. Patricia Kim had always studied alien life forms, but she never thought her research would help save humanity. She sat in her laboratory on the research ship Discovery, looking at data about the hegemony aliens. What she found made her excited and scared at the same time. "Commander, you need to see this right now," she called to Commander Alex Turner, who was reading military reports. Alex walked over to her workstation. Holographic displays showed complex biological information about the aliens. "What did you find, Doctor?" Patricia's hands shook a little as she pointed to the data. "The hegemony isn't just an old empire. They're a species that stopped evolving. Look at these biological markers." The display showed detailed studies of alien biology. They've been using genetic engineering and computer implants for so long that they've removed natural evolution from their species. Every individual is almost exactly the same, designed for their specific job in society. "That explains why they can't understand our tactics," Alex said. "They can't understand being unpredictable because they've bred unpredictability out of themselves." "It's worse than that," Patricia continued. "Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also completely standardized. Every ship, every weapon, every system follows the same design principles they've used for thousands of years. They've achieved perfection, but they've also achieved stagnation." Alex felt like someone had hit him. They're not just predictable. They can't adapt to new situations. Meanwhile, in the Tau Ceti system, Captain Emma Stone was discovering this for herself. Her destroyer, the Relentless, had been doing what she called aggressive scouting. This basically meant poking the alien ships to see how they would react. "Captain," called Lieutenant Kevin Ross from the weapons station, "the alien ships are responding to our probe exactly like they did the last 17 times. Same formation change, same warning message, same positioning." Emma studied the enemy formation. 3 massive alien ships had maintained a perfect triangle formation for 6 hours. They only moved when her ship went beyond a certain distance. They're not just following orders, she realized. They can't do anything different. Chief Engineer Maria Santos looked up from her computer. "Captain, I've been analyzing their energy readings. These ships are incredibly powerful, but they're also incredibly wasteful. They're using brute force for everything." "Explain." "Their weapons are designed to overwhelm any defense through pure power. Their shields run at maximum strength all the time. Their engines run at peak efficiency for their design. But they don't adjust, they don't optimize, they don't adapt to new situations." Emma felt a predatory smile on her face. "They're fighting the same war they've always fought. They can't change." Back on Earth, the pieces were coming together. General Carl Jenkins stood before the Joint Chiefs of Staff, explaining humanity's new understanding of their enemy. The hegemony conquered the galaxy through overwhelming technological superiority, he explained. But they did it so completely that they eliminated all challenges to their rule. They haven't faced a real enemy in thousands of years. Admiral Susan Cooper studied the reports. They're not just overconfident. They literally can't deal with real opposition. Every species they've conquered followed predictable patterns, General Jenkins continued. Surrender, desperate resistance, or technological escalation. They've optimized their entire military around countering these responses. "But humans don't follow patterns," Admiral Cooper said, understanding in her voice. "Exactly. We're chaotic, unpredictable, and adaptable. We improvise, we innovate, we find solutions that shouldn't work but do. It's not just that they don't understand us. They can't understand us. The news spread through the human fleet like wildfire. Captain Miller received the updated intelligence on the Defiance, and his response was typically human. "So you're telling me that the most powerful military force in the galaxy is basically a really advanced computer program that can't handle unexpected inputs?" That's actually a pretty good way to put it. Dr. Kim's voice came through the communication link. Their entire society is built around eliminating surprises. They've achieved order by giving up creativity. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Each person was unique, bringing different perspectives and skills to their job. Humanity's greatest weakness, their inability to achieve the kind of unified purpose that had made the hegemony so successful, was about to become their greatest strength. "All ships, this is Captain Miller," he broadcast to the fleet. "New orders. Stop trying to make sense. Every ship should use completely independent tactics. No coordination, no standard procedures, no predictable responses. If you think of something that might work, try it. If it doesn't work, try something else." The response from his fellow captains was immediate and enthusiastic. Within hours, the human fleet had transformed from a military organization into something the galaxy had never seen. Organized chaos. Ships began using tactics that would have horrified military teachers. They tried ramming maneuvers that turned into last-second evasions. They used weapon systems as improvised tools. They modified their engines in ways that technically violated safety rules but provided unexpected advantages. The hegemony's response was exactly what the intelligence had predicted: paralysis. Their ships maintained formation. Their computers analyzed the impossible data. Their commanders sent increasingly frantic requests for guidance from superiors who had no framework for understanding what they were seeing. "They're not just confused," observed Commander Clark during a fleet conference. "They're terrified. For the first time in their existence, they're facing something they can't predict, categorize, or counter." Captain Watson's voice came through from the outer rim. "The alien ships in my sector just requested a temporary ceasefire. They want to study our tactical doctrine before continuing with hostilities." The human fleet commanders looked at each other across the communication network. They were being asked to pause a war so their enemies could figure out how to fight them. Jake's response was pure human. "Tell them we'll consider it. After we finish our current playlist." Dr. Kim had been studying the alien communications and made another important discovery. "I've been analyzing their language patterns," she reported to Earth Command. "The hegemony doesn't just use standardized tactics. They use standardized thinking. Their language has no words for concepts like improvisation, intuition, or making it up as you go along." Colonel Hayes leaned forward. "They literally can't think the way we do?" Their brains had been modified over thousands of years to eliminate what they call inefficient thought processes. Things like daydreaming, random associations, creative leaps. They can only think in logical, predetermined patterns. So when we do something random ... it's not just unexpected. It's impossible according to their worldview. It's like showing a color to someone who's been blind their whole life. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just fighting a technologically superior enemy. They were fighting an enemy that was literally incapable of understanding human behavior. Captain Miller called another fleet conference. "I want to try something," he said. "Instead of just confusing them, let's see if we can teach them something." "What do you mean?" asked Admiral Sullivan. "I mean, let's show them what creativity looks like. Not just random movements, but genuine human problem solving. Show them how we adapt and improvise." Over the next few days, the human fleet began what they called demonstration maneuvers. Instead of just flying randomly, they started solving problems in real time. When a ship's engine malfunctioned, instead of following standard repair procedures, The crew improvised a solution using spare parts and duct tape. When communication systems failed, they created new ways to send messages, using light patterns and synchronized movements. The aliens watched in fascination and growing alarm. These weren't just random actions. This was a completely different way of thinking about problems. "Captain," Lieutenant Parker reported to Miller, "we're getting some interesting responses from the alien commanders. They're asking questions like, how do you determine optimal solutions without pre-calculated variables? And what is the logical basis for intuitive decision-making?" Jake laughed. "They're trying to understand how we can think without following a program." "It gets better," Parker continued. "One of their commanders asked if we could teach them our chaos mathematics. They think our randomness is actually a very advanced form of calculation." The human fleet had stumbled upon something unprecedented in galactic history. They had found an enemy that was so advanced, so perfectly organized, that they had forgotten how to be flexible. The hegemony was like a chess grandmaster who had memorized every possible game, suddenly faced with an opponent who was playing checkers on a chessboard while humming jazz music. "Dr. Kim," Jake called through the communication system, "in your professional opinion, what happens if we keep this up? Based on their psychological profiles, I think they'll eventually reach a breaking point. They're not equipped to handle prolonged uncertainty. Their entire society depends on having clear, logical answers to every situation. And if they break, then we'll have accomplished something no species in galactic history has ever done. We'll have defeated the hegemony. Not through superior force, but 3 weeks had passed since the standoff began. The human colonies had become something that had never happened in galactic history, a tourist destination for confused aliens. Ships from neutral species had started arriving to watch the stalemate. They were drawn by reports of the mysterious human tactics that had brought the mighty hegemony to a complete stop. Commander Nina Walsh stood on the observation deck of the space station Frontier. She watched a huge alien battleship maintain perfect formation, while a small human ship performed what could only be described as space dancing around it. "Give me a status report," she called to her operations officer. Lieutenant Tim Bradley looked at his displays. "The alien forces are staying in position across all 12 systems. They've asked for 37 different ceasefires. They've demanded explanations for our unconventional procedures. They've also asked us to please stop playing music during diplomatic communications." Nina couldn't help but smile. "What did we tell them?" Captain Miller told them that music is a vital part of human military doctrine. He said removing it would compromise our tactical effectiveness. The main display showed the current situation. Alien ships in perfect mathematical formations. Human ships scattered in patterns that looked random, but were actually designed for maximum confusion. It was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. "Ma'am," called Specialist Julie Martinez from the communications station, "we're getting a priority transmission from an unknown vessel. It's not from the hegemony." The screen showed a being that looked like a reptile. Its scales changed color as it spoke. "Greetings, humans. I am Ambassador Krex of the Neutral Trade Federation. We have been watching your unique approach to interstellar diplomacy." Nina stepped forward. "Ambassador, we're currently in a military standoff. This might not be the best time for trade talks." Krex's scales shifted to what might have been amusement. "Commander, we're not here to trade. We're here to learn. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, no species has ever made the hegemony ask for tactical explanations. Your methods are fascinating." "You mean chaotic and unpredictable?" "I mean effective. The hegemony has been trying to analyze your fleet movements for weeks. Their best tactical computers have concluded that you're using technology beyond their understanding or operating on principles of organized insanity." Nina felt proud. Both assessments are partially correct. Meanwhile, on the Defiance, Captain Miller was dealing with his own diplomatic crisis. Supreme Overlord Zix9 had asked for a personal conference. The conversation was not going as anyone had expected. Human Captain Miller, the alien's translated voice, carried what might have been frustration. Your species confuses us greatly. We have studied your tactical deployments for 21 standard cycles. Our analysis yields no understandable strategy. Jake leaned back in his command chair. Maybe you're thinking too hard about it, Zix. Sometimes the best strategy is no strategy. This statement contains logical paradox. Strategy absence cannot equal strategy presence. Welcome to humanity, Jake replied cheerfully. We specialize in logical paradoxes. The alien's compound eyes seemed to flicker with what might have been. The equivalent of a headache. Your species violates fundamental principles of military science. Your formations lack mathematical precision. Your communications contain inefficient emotional expressions. Your weapons deployment follows no recognizable pattern. And yet here we are, still talking instead of fighting. This is the source of our confusion. Hegemony Standard Protocol requires tactical assessment before military action. Assessment of human tactics has proven impossible. Jake looked at his bridge crew. They were winning a war by being incomprehensible. Zix, can I ask you something? In all your conquests, have you ever met a species that didn't fight the way you expected? Negative. All species follow predictable patterns of resistance. Technological desperation, numerical mobilization, strategic fortification, or immediate surrender. These patterns have remained consistent across 10,000 standard years. What if I told you that humans don't follow patterns? That we make things up as we go along? The translation system struggled with Zix's response. It produced something that sounded like electronic static, mixed with what might have been alien. Swearing. Back on Earth, the situation was becoming increasingly surreal. Director Helen Davis stood before the Global Defense Council, delivering a briefing that would have been rejected as fiction just a month earlier. The hegemony has formally requested that we provide them with tactical manuals explaining our military doctrine, she announced. They're offering to negotiate a peaceful resolution in exchange for access to our advanced chaos theory-based warfare systems. President Robert Chun looked up from his papers. Are you telling me that we're winning a war with the galaxies? Most powerful empire, because they think we're too smart to understand? It's more complex than that, sir. They think we're using advanced mathematics to simulate randomness as a military tactic. They can't conceive of actual randomness because their society has eliminated it. What should we do? General Jenkins stepped forward. Sir, I recommend we continue current operations. The longer we maintain this standoff, the more time we have to study their technology and find real tactical advantages. Also, added Admiral Cooper, other species are starting to take notice. The Neutral Trade Federation has offered to mediate negotiations. The Crystalline Collective has requested observer status. Even some of the hegemony's own subject species are asking questions about human tactics. President Shun rubbed his temples. So we're accidentally starting a galactic revolution by being incomprehensible? That's actually not a bad summary, sir. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the fleet. Captain Miller's face appeared on the screen. His expression was serious, but with an undertone of barely controlled excitement. Mr. President, we've just received an unprecedented communication from the hegemony. Supreme Overlord Zix9 has requested a formal negotiation session. He's offering territorial concessions in exchange for what he calls tactical enlightenment. President Chun stared at the screen. He wants to give us territory, so we'll teach him how to be unpredictable. That's the basic idea, sir. Oh, and he's also asked us to please stop playing jazz during diplomatic communications. Apparently, improvisation causes physical discomfort. to their species. The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. Humanity had stumbled into the greatest diplomatic advantage in galactic history, and it was all because they couldn't figure out how to act normal. "Captain Miller," President Chun said finally, "tell the Supreme Overlord that we'll consider his offer. But first, we need to finish our current song." The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in galactic history. The hegemony, desperate to understand human tactical thinking, offered concession after concession. They would withdraw from disputed territories. They would provide technological exchanges. They would even grant humans a seat on the Galactic Council, all in exchange for lessons in organized chaos. The human negotiation team, led by Ambassador Sarah Mitchell, found themselves in the bizarre position of trying to explain that their military success was based on not having a plan. "You must understand," Ambassador Mitchell explained to the assembled alien delegates, "humans don't use chaos theory in warfare. We use actual chaos." Supreme Overlord Zix-9's translator struggled with the concept. Clarification required. How can actual chaos be controlled for military advantage? It can't be controlled. That's the point. We adapt to situations as they arise. We make decisions based on incomplete information. We improvise solutions that shouldn't work but do. The alien delegates exchanged confused communications. Their translators were working overtime to find words in their languages for concepts like gut feeling and playing it by ear. "This is impossible," declared Commander Vex 7, one of Zix-9's military advisors. "Military operations require predetermined parameters. Success probability must be calculated before action initiation." Ambassador Mitchell smiled. "That's exactly why our tactics work against you. You can't prepare for something that doesn't exist until the moment it happens." The breakthrough came when Dr. Kim joined the negotiations via video link. She had been studying the philosophical implications of the cultural clash. "The fundamental difference," she explained to the assembled delegates, "is that the hegemony seeks to eliminate uncertainty. Humans embrace it. You see randomness as a problem to be solved. We see it as a tool to be used." Supreme Overlord Zix-9 leaned forward in his chair. "Demonstrate this concept. Show us how uncertainty becomes advantage." "Ambassador." Mitchell looked around the negotiation room. Representatives from dozens of species watched with fascination. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "Very well," she said. "Let me show you how humans solve problems." She walked to the main display and called up a tactical scenario. "Here's a situation. Your ship's engines fail during combat. Your weapons are damaged. Enemy vessels are closing in. You have 30 seconds. What do you do?" The alien military experts immediately began calculating. They considered power rerouting protocols, emergency repair procedures, and standard evasion maneuvers. Their analysis was thorough, logical, and would take approximately 6 months after the crisis began. Ambassador Sarah Mitchell stood in the newly built diplomatic station orbiting Earth. She watched representatives from 47 different species try to understand what humans had accidentally accomplished. Station's main conference room buzzed with translation devices as delegates from across the galaxy debated the human paradox. This was what they called how the youngest spacefaring species had managed to change interstellar relations through pure unpredictability. "The hegemony's offer is unprecedented," announced Ambassador Krex. His scales shifted through various colors. As he spoke, "They're proposing to restructure their entire military doctrine based on human tactical principles." Supreme Overlord Zix-9 attended the meeting through a hologram. His species felt uncomfortable being around humans directly. The hologram flickered slightly as he responded. "The human species has demonstrated warfare capabilities beyond our analytical frameworks. Integration of their chaos mathematics into Hegemony doctrine would provide strategic advantages against unknown future threats. Sarah had to keep herself from smiling. After 6 months of negotiations, the hegemony still believed that humanity's completely random military responses were the result of advanced mathematical modeling. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked. "The hegemony will withdraw from all human-claimed territories in exchange for access to human tactical education. Additionally, we propose establishment of joint research initiatives to study human chaos theory applications in military contexts." Admiral Miller, now promoted from captain and serving as military liaison, leaned forward. "And if we refuse? Then the hegemony will be forced to adapt our analytical methods. This process may require extended observation periods." Sarah translated this in her mind. They were so confused by human tactics that they were willing to give up their empire rather than risk another military engagement they couldn't understand. "We need to discuss this with our leadership," she said diplomatically. After the session ended, Sarah found herself in the station's observation lounge with Admiral Miller and Dr. Kim. They watched ships from dozens of different species maintain peaceful formations around Earth. "Do you think they'll ever figure out that we're just making it up as we go?" Dr. Kim asked. Jake shook his head. "I don't think they can. Their entire worldview is based on the idea that advanced civilizations operate according to complex, logical principles. The concept of successful improvisation is literally beyond their understanding. So what do we do?" Sarah looked out at the assembled fleet. Former enemies were now seeking to understand the human way of approaching problems. "We do what humans always do. We adapt." 3 hours later, she stood before the Galactic Council, delivering humanity's response to the hegemony's proposal. "The human government has decided to accept the hegemony's proposal, with modifications," she announced. "We will establish joint research initiatives, but not to study chaos theory mathematics. Instead, we'll be studying something far more valuable: creative problem solving." The alien delegates exchanged confused communications. Ambassador Krex's scales shifted to what she'd learned indicated puzzlement. Clarification requested? Creative problem solving? The ability to find solutions that don't exist yet. To adapt to circumstances that no one anticipated. To succeed not because you're following the optimal plan, but because you're willing to try something that might not work. Supreme Overlord Zix9's image flickered with what might have been distress. This concept suggests operational parameters without predetermined outcomes. How is mission success achieved without mission success probability calculations? Sarah smiled. "That's exactly what we're going to teach you." 1 year later, the changes were visible across the galaxy. The hegemony, true to their word, had withdrawn from human space and established the first Adaptive Tactics Research Institute on a joint station near the border of their territory. The results were remarkable. Hegemony ships had begun incorporating what they called controlled randomness into their operations. Their formations were less mathematically perfect, but more flexible. Their response times to unexpected situations had improved dramatically. More importantly, other species had begun requesting similar arrangements. The rigid hierarchies and predictable behaviors that had characterized galactic civilization for millennia were slowly giving way to something more dynamic. Admiral Miller, now commanding the joint human hegemony fleet exercises, watched a mixed squadron practice the art of tactical improvisation. He was essentially teaching ancient warrior philosophers how to wing it. Admiral, called Commander Lisa Rodriguez, now serving as his chief of staff. The Crystalline Collective has requested permission to observe today's exercises. They want to understand how their crystal-based rigid thinking might benefit from human-style flexibility. Approved, Jake replied, then turned to his communications officer. Lieutenant Parker, Please inform the hegemony ships that today's exercise will be conducted to a soundtrack of classic Earth rock music. Sir, they've requested that we avoid jazz. Apparently, improvisation-based music causes what they describe as pleasant cognitive dissonance, and they're afraid it's affecting their crew efficiency. Jake grinned. Tell them that's exactly the point. As the exercises began, human ships led alien vessels through maneuvers that would have been impossible under traditional military doctrine. Jake reflected on how dramatically the galaxy had changed. Humanity hadn't conquered the stars through superior technology or military might. They'd done it by being so fundamentally unpredictable that even the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had been forced to adapt or be left behind. The changes weren't limited to military applications. Trade negotiations that had been deadlocked for decades suddenly found new solutions when human mediators introduced creative problem-solving techniques. Scientific research programs that had stagnated began making breakthroughs when human scientists introduced the concept of productive failure, the idea that unsuccessful experiments could provide valuable information. Dr. Kim, now the Institute's co-director, had been studying the broader implications of what they had accomplished. Her research showed that the introduction of human style, unpredictability, was causing a renaissance across galactic civilization. The most interesting development, she reported during a council session, is that other species are beginning to rediscover their own capacity for creative thinking. The hegemony's standardization programs had suppressed natural creativity in many species. Human influence is helping them remember abilities they had forgotten. Ambassador Krex had become something of a case study in this phenomenon. The Neutral Trade Federation had always been conservative in their approach to interstellar commerce. But after observing human negotiation techniques, Krex had begun experimenting with what he called intuitive diplomacy. I find myself making decisions based on incomplete information, he reported to the council. According to traditional analysis, this should result in suboptimal outcomes. Instead, my success rate has improved by 37%. The transformation was most dramatic in the hegemony itself. Young alien officers who had been trained in rigid tactical doctrine were now attending uncertainty workshops led by human instructors. They learned to make decisions without complete information, to adapt to changing circumstances, and to find creative solutions to impossible problems. Supreme Overlord Zix-9, once the epitome of logical precision, had become an unlikely advocate for what he called productive confusion. The human approach to problem-solving has revealed fundamental limitations in our previous methodologies, he announced during a formal address to the hegemony leadership. Optimal solutions require perfect information. Perfect information requires time. Time is not always available. Therefore, suboptimal solutions implemented quickly may be superior to optimal solutions implemented slowly. It was a revolutionary concept for a civilization that had spent millennia perfecting efficiency. The cultural exchange programs had produced equally interesting results. Human artists working with alien technicians had created new forms of expression that neither species could have developed alone. Human musicians collaborating with crystalline harmonic specialists had invented entirely new genres of music. Human chefs working with multi-species ingredients had revolutionized galactic cuisine. But perhaps the most significant change was philosophical. The galaxy had operated under the assumption that advanced civilizations naturally evolved toward greater order, efficiency, and predictability. Humanity had proven that chaos, inefficiency, and unpredictability could be equally valuable. We've accidentally triggered a paradigm shift, Sarah explained to President Chun during one of their regular briefings. For the first time in galactic history, species are actively choosing to become less predictable. And this is good? It's revolutionary. Predictable civilizations eventually stagnate. Unpredictable civilizations continue to evolve. We've given the galaxy permission to be messy again. The final report from the Adaptive Tactics Research Institute, jointly authored by human and alien researchers, would later be studied by xenosociologists across the galaxy. The human approach to problem solving appears to be based on the principle that no problem has a predetermined solution. Ray,